Thank you for joining today's Education USA presentation on what are liberal arts colleges. My name is Jenica Heim. I'm the Education USA advisor in Canada. Education USA provides free information about studying in the United States, and we are your #1 resource to help you with your decision on applying to schools in the United States. And webinars like this are here to help you narrow down your choices, and then of course you can follow up with me or your local Education USA advisor to help you even further with narrowing down your decisions. And so what we do is we ask experts in the field to come on and to help us answer these questions. So today we have Chris Paasch, and I'm hoping I'm saying your last name right. Chris is a 2006 graduate of Coe College. He's been guiding students through the application admissions process since 2007. Having visited over 15 countries, he enjoys assisting students from other cultures and seeing what they bring to Coe's campus. And his favorite Coe tradition is ringing the victory bell. I'm sure he's going to tell us more about what that means. Thank you for being here, Chris, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Jenica. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, and thanks for letting me be a part of this and kind of talk through a little bit about what a liberal arts college is in the U.S. And so I'll kind of go through some of the background histories and kind of go through the presentation this way. So let's get started. So again, my name is Chris Paasch, and I work here at Coe College as a Senior Associate Director for International Recruitment for our campus. So we'll kind of break it down into 4 different areas for today's conversation about liberal arts colleges. The first thing we'll kind of go through is really the history of what liberal arts education is, how it became to be, and what it has kind of really morphed into, and what I guess it's more current state in terms of education, the higher education world, and the needs it provides and services it provides. Then I'll next talk kind of about misconceptions of what a liberal arts college is. And I have 5 common misconceptions that when I speak with students and work with students, that I have a commonality of explaining, providing more information really about what a liberal arts and science institution does and the education it provides. Nextly, I'll talk about really kind of some of the characteristics and benefits of a typical liberal arts campus, what you can expect on a general scale, and really what some of the missions are behind some of those characteristics and why they exist and what benefits they have for the students. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about the relevance of this education model in today's world. Does it still make sense? Is it still applicable? And kind of just a general foreshadow of what this type of education is going for, and maybe where we can see it next going to. So those are kind of the 4 main areas that I'll talk about today, just to kind of hopefully give you a general sense, again, foundational view of what a liberal arts college is, and if it's appropriate for you, because it does differ compared to other education models here in the United States. So, to get started, a little history facts. From my limited kind of research, there are no historical textbooks on liberal arts colleges and the education they provide, but hopefully some of these I have 3 different kind of historical markers here that follow this kind of education model throughout the many centuries ago, and then next we'll talk about kind of its modern times things. But to get us started, we'll look at really kind of the basic curriculum, and when it kind of created was, according to my research, was kind of in the Roman Empire era. And they kind of called this kind of educational model, which we'll learn more about, the liberal pursuits. And it served as the basic curriculum of formal education for the Roman Empire. And although the definitions of that education, mainly what it included, what type of experiences it were, and those type of things varied, it still provided kind of a general basic academic exposure and knowledge learning that's kind of covered across that kind of typical empire there. Fast forwarding several years to the 5th century AD, and kind of coming into that era, the liberal arts model kind of got a little bit more detailed and a little bit more defined. And it kind of composed the two different ways of that we think of it now, the liberal arts and the sciences. So at kind of that point, it kind of began its two separations into two different discipline fields. And it had, again, two components. So the traditional definition of a liberal arts is actually a liberal arts and science institution, because it does provide those two different areas. And the first one is kind of broken down into the sciences. And so in that time, they coined it the quadrivium, and it contained different academic exposures such as music, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. So the main scientific disciplines of those eras is really what made up the quadrivium, or the science component of the liberal arts. And then the other one is kind of the humanities, or what we call the humanities today, which is a trivium. And those kind of contain the grammar and the logistic and kind of rhetoric sides of things. And so those two kind of combined created a new definition of what a liberal arts and liberal education is. Fast forwarding again a little bit further here and into kind of the next, to the 16th century, we kind of looked at more of a European model, okay? So still a similar concept of liberal arts and sciences, but this kind of educational model became the curriculum of humanism and the foundation for the European elite. So if you were going into any type of law, any type of doctor, any type of education field, anything what I would call the elite positions or elite societal roles in a community were being taught through this educational model. And so they felt one should be well versed in the sciences, but also the arts and humanities, reading and writing. They should have read well. They should be able to write effectively alongside of being scientific exploration and those type of things. So they kind of, that became the new basic criteria for kind of elite education in the European at that point in time. So now we'll kind of fast forward a little bit further to modern times, right? So what does this model mean today in the year 2000s, right? Is it still applicable for something that this educational model for so historical and so old? Does it still make sense to have this, what we'll call a well-balanced or a holistic approach to education? So a lot of the things that I think, I have three kind of components up here that will explain in brief what a liberal arts education kind of is now, and some of a few criteria that might, I guess, be associated with that. The first one is specializing in undergraduate education. Most liberal arts colleges are colleges, so they are not providing master's, PhD, or advanced degrees in education. They are just teaching the 4-year bachelor's degree, and especially a bachelor's of arts degree in their education. And so when you're thinking about liberal arts in colleges, you should only think about the undergraduate year. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some liberal arts colleges in more recently years that do provide master's degrees, but typically liberal arts college will only provide, again, those 4-year bachelor's degree programs. Teaching rather than research. I put this one up there because I do believe that it's one of kind of our liberal arts colleges' staple missions. Our mission is to teach students. That's our main goal for being here. We specialize in undergraduate education, and so we are specializing in the degree of which we educate their students and help give them a foundation of either what their career might be or maybe what the next educational step in their path might be as well. And so we are providing that focus on teaching the students and not necessarily on advancing scholarly or academic research. Now I'll put an asterisk in there because even though we're a liberal arts college, our faculty focus on the education and teaching of students, we still do a lot of research on liberal arts and colleges campuses, particularly in Coe and other institutions like ours around the US. We have very extensive research opportunities for students, and our faculty are engaging in graduate level research as an undergraduate professor. It's just their main focus, their main position on our campus is to teach our students and not necessarily do research for the institution, unlike what a university might be doing. And the last thing I'll talk about is kind of it's a holistic education approach and its model. And this is kind of, again, follows the historical reference of what a liberal arts and science institution is. We want students to be well balanced. And you'll find this in any liberal arts college mission statement, right? To have advanced exposures to many different areas, to have experiences and opportunities covering not just the sciences and not just the humanities, but also the arts, also diverse cultural perspectives. And so they want students from a liberal arts education to have what we call a holistic education or a well-rounded education. It also has been described as having an education that involves breadth of different subjects, but also the depth of one particular subject that maybe you may be majoring in. And so holistic education, you might be majoring in biology and focusing the majority of your courses in biology, but we're still going to require you to take things in the social sciences, things in the humanities, some arts courses, again, diverse cultural perspective courses as well, because we want you to have this broad education that you have different exposures to different things. And I'll get to that a little bit later, why we want you to do that. It's not just to learn these random facts, so you can spill them out at when you're meeting with students or things like that, or meeting with fellow colleagues or in the working world. There's reasons to have this kind of holistic education and what it teaches our students. So that's kind of what I'll kind of conclude as our modern time approach to liberal arts education and what it kind of means at this point, as I see it in that way. The next thing I'll kind of go through here is some common misconceptions of a liberal arts college. And I have these all the time when I speak to students. A lot of times, especially when I'm working with international students, I start first by explaining what a liberal arts college is, explaining the methods, the model, the mission statements, and those type of things. And I have 5 different misconceptions up here that I'll talk about. And these are the ones that are most commonly I hear again and again when I'm working with students that I enjoy explaining because it's an educational process for them. They get to learn not only just a different type of education, but they also get to learn whether it's a good fit for them in that process. So we'll kind of go through each one of these. So the first misconception I have up there, or I guess the first 3, really kind of involve the name itself, right? The name liberal arts college automatically, in many cases, has misconceptions in there that naturally students are learning it for the first time. So liberal is the first one I have up there. And in the U.S. governmental system, we have, our 2 main parties, the Republicans and Democrats, or the liberals and conservatives. So sometimes the word liberal, at least even in U.S. students, think it's some sort of relation to our political philosophy or some political affiliation with our school and maybe governmental processes. And that's not necessarily the case at all. What liberal refers to is this broad exposure to different knowledge points and different exposures to different types of education and different departments or different disciplines. So the liberal in the name really kind of refers to that broad sense of exposure of different academic components. The arts is another thing. And so a lot of students feel that the arts, oh, you're applying to liberal arts school? That must mean you're interested in art or music or theater. That's great. Why would you be applying to it if you're a science major or interested in business or something like that? And so the arts is really just kind of the art of learning. It's not necessarily the creative arts. It's just the art of expanding your knowledge and earning those skills. Is the historical way of what an art was, right? Perfecting something. And so that's really kind of part of the misconception that liberal arts colleges only provide the arts. And that's, again, another misconception. The last word is college, right? And depending on the country, college might mean literally high school or their secondary education. They went to a college for their high school education. And here in the US, college really is the same thing as a university in terms of the 4-year bachelor's degree. You'll get a bachelor's degree at a university, that's 4 years, and a bachelor's degree at a college, that's 4 years. The only difference between a college in the US and the university, in a strict one simple explanation, is that universities provide graduate degrees. They provide master's programs and doctorate programs or PhD programs. And so that's one of the main things that differentiates a college versus a university, is the advanced degrees that they provide for their students or not. So the college does not necessarily mean less advanced than a university. It doesn't mean it's about the same as a high school. It's completely different than those type of things that a lot of times students associate the word college with. I have 2 more up here that I just kind of picked out. The first one is small. One of the few things that's common with liberal arts colleges is that if you read kind of their 30-second pitch about their school, you'll find the word small in there somewhere. I almost guarantee it. And so a lot of times students think, well, if it's a small institution, that means you don't have many classes, right? You don't have many majors for students to study. It might be similar to a high school experience because there's not many students there, so it's probably just like my high school that was possibly small too. And really, yes, most of our colleges are small, liberal arts colleges, but they're small for a reason. They're not small because they aren't academically strong. They aren't small because there's not much opportunities for students. They're small because having that small class sizes, that small campus, helps us meet our mission objective for the students, which is providing very individualized, close-connected education for our students. And that type of model is very difficult to do when you have classes, 100, 200, 300 students. That's very difficult to do to provide a small, individualized educational experience when you have that many students in one faculty member. So the fact that small doesn't necessarily mean that there's fewer things to do here or it's less advanced than a university or a large institution. And that's one of the things that obviously constantly talk with students about explaining our opportunities here at Coe and at other liberal arts institutions as well. And the last one is expensive. You'll find most, if not all, liberal arts colleges are typically private schools. So they aren't funded by the federal government or the state governments. They are funded by themselves. And so they're private institutions. And typically in the US, when it's private, that means it's more expensive. And that does hold true in this case. Liberal arts colleges are typically more expensive than public universities in the United States. But I'll also put another asterisk here as well, because most liberal arts institutions that I'm aware of and that I'm familiar with provide some sort of scholarships. That's scholarships for domestic students, but that's also scholarships for international students as well. So for example, our sticker price. So that out of the gate, what our educational costs are higher than a public institution. But oftentimes, once we add in the scholarships that we provide for students and different aid that we provide, often the costs are very, very more comparable or not too far off. So that sticker cost a lot of times makes students shy away or discourages students from exploring these liberal arts colleges more. but most of the students realize that we do provide a lot of good aid for international students and students in general to try and help alleviate that cost. Okay, so again, those are 5 kind of little misconceptions that I often talk about with students and explain to them really what the liberal arts education model is. Okay, so this is a slide that has a lot of information on it, so I'm going to stay with this one for a little while, so I apologize. Not much movement here. But I've listed out basically 6 characteristics that you can typically find at most liberal arts colleges. And we'll kind of go through each one of these and explain the parts of those component characteristics and really what it's trying to serve its students as, and why these are characteristics of a liberal arts college. The first one is class sizes. Our class sizes are typically small. On average, you'll have anywhere from average class sizes of 8, maybe up to 18 on average. Here at Coe, our average class size is 16 students. So what does that mean? Right? 16 students per class. Oh, great, you have small class sizes. Okay, well, what's the benefit for me as a student? One of the main things is you get to know your faculty members really well in that situation, right? At large universities in the US, sometimes your introductory courses are several hundred students, and you have one professor. You might have a TA or a couple other people to help out with questions and things like that, but very rarely would you actually have an opportunity to talk with your professor. At an institution like Coe, a liberal arts college, you will have their name, right? You know their name. A lot of times you have their home phone numbers. You might call them on a first name basis, which most of our professors prefer. You'll know their office hours. You'll know where their office is, and those type of things. So you develop this more of a closer relationship with your faculty member. And that's good for many reasons. One, if you're struggling in the class, the more you know your professor, the more easy it is to help go into them and have them instruct you in a different way, help answer questions, and help guide you through that educational process. It also allows for our students to have more of an individualized approach to their education. Not all students learn the same. And so having a smaller class size allows our faculty to be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more flexible in how they teach. So most of our professors just don't lecture every day. Some might have presentations, some might lecture, but the next day it might be having visitors come in and speak to their class. It might be going on a field trip, to be honest. It might be, today's we're actually doing presentations from students. And so it allows our faculty to have a little bit more different approaches to their classes and to the information they're providing. It also allows our students to do different things during class. Right? So when you have smaller class sizes, it allows our students to not just sit through a lecture, but they might be working on group projects. They might be working on multiple papers at the same time or doing multiple different types of readings. They might be taking in information from several different sources rather than just the professor or just the academic textbook. They might be working on a project with their next door neighbor in the classroom as well. So it, again, allows students to learn in different types of way and be flexible in that regard. And the last part is the classrooms are very much discussion-based, right? So it's not just the faculty talking to you, the students taking down notes, and then you see them the next class period. The faculty want to know from the students. They ask questions. They want your input as a student in that class. They want you to discuss. They want you to argue with students because that's helps with the education process. So smaller class sizes allows our students and our faculty to have these close connections and this interactive type of education that's really difficult at larger institutions. The next thing is academic exploration. And this is just, again, another mission component, as I mentioned earlier, of a liberal arts college. We want students to explore. And so we don't want students just to focus in one academic area, sit there for 4 years, learn that very well, and have no other contextual concepts of anything outside of that area. We want students to be well-versed in a lot of different areas, in a lot of different disciplines, in a lot of different ways of thought, ways of thinking, ways of activities as well. And so we have, all of us liberal arts colleges have some sort of general education requirement. So that means we have students mandatorily study different sections, studying different departments, right? So here at Coe, we have students that have to take, all of our students have to take some of the hard sciences, so biology, chemistry, physics. They have to take a couple classes in those areas. They have to take a couple classes in the social sciences, sociology, economics, psychology, those type of areas. They have to take some things in the humanities, so history, religion, philosophy, English, writing. They have to take some things in the arts, art, music, theater. And they have to take some things in diverse cultural perspectives. So just kind of getting a worldview and understanding the world as a component to what they're being a part of, right, in the grand scheme of things. And so all of our students have to do all of these courses and explore these different areas. It in parts kind of follows our educational mission in their personal development, which I'll talk a little bit about later, and allows our students to actually be more flexible in their studies. So if you work with students, or you are a student that really isn't sure what they want to study, right? They like the arts, they like sciences, and they enjoy history, but they don't know what that direction is. They don't know what to do, as a career or an ultimate education goal. This structure allows a lot of flexibility for students to try different things. They can try a couple classes in the sciences. They can try a couple classes in psychology and see what really speaks to them and what they find a passion for. So it kind of allows a lot of flexibility for students to explore and find what their passion is without being punished for not knowing right away and then having to graduate within 4 years and delaying graduation. It also allows a lot of flexibility in terms of studying multiple things. So double majoring is very common at a liberal arts college because the structure is just naturally set up that way. At Coe, almost half of our students will double major. So that could be a major in biology and molecular biology. That makes sense, right? They're common things to go together. But what doesn't always make sense is my majors, which were computer science and psychology. Those have no connection whatsoever. But the flexible structure allowed me to explore 2 different areas that I was passionate about and wanted to learn more about. And so that structure allows our students to have unique perspectives as an undergraduate student and create themselves kind of as an individual also as well when they're going on to employment and graduate school topics also. Again, ability to switch focus as well, right? So a lot of students as come into the college career, they are focused on one major, right? I want to be an economics major. I've never had an economics course in my life, but I really like economics and I want to study that. They take 2 economics courses and realize, you know what, this is not something that I want to do. It allows students to have that flexibility of being able to switch majors and still not get delayed in their graduation time. So it allows them to, again, explore a little bit to figure out what they like and what they don't like. The next thing I'll talk about is kind of academic opportunities. Now, all of these type of opportunities exist at most institutions here in the U.S. But what doesn't always exist is how that's integrated into the overall education model for all of our students at liberal arts colleges. Most schools will have all of these opportunities available for their students on their campus. It might be academic student-faculty research, where our students are actually working with hands-on research within our labs on our campus with faculty members, doing presentations, going to conferences, maybe even getting published in scholarly magazines, those type of things. Those happen regularly on our campuses. It might be doing an internship or a co-op or a personal practicum experience where you're getting real-world business experience by working in a company or organizations for a semester or for a year. Having that, resume builder is an excellent thing for our students and all students as well to have. It helps them to explore if they want to continue to go in that major, which means that kind of a career choice, but it also just kind of gives them employable skills and employable experience that they can take after their graduation. And the last one is study abroad. So exploring new cultures, exploring new countries, exploring new people is definitely something that's a continual component of our liberal arts college's motto, which is being a world citizen, right? And having a holistic worldview is very common in most of our missions on a liberal arts campus. So those three things are not just options for students. A lot of them are mandatory or even sometimes even guaranteed. For at Coe, you have each one of those options is guaranteed as a student here if you want. Some of our students will do multiples of each. Some of our students will do all three of them. I actually got all three done before I graduated within 4 years, is having each one of those experiences. And it just helps, again, bring the classroom academics to a personal experience level or a real world experience level that it's just an incredible experience for any student to have. And have that exposure as an undergraduate student is ideal as much as possible. A lot of these opportunities on our campuses, since we don't have as many students, it's not as competitive on a lot of the larger institutionals it might be. So students have more access to these type of opportunities as well. Similar to small class sizes, I'll talk a little bit about faculty. And our faculty at most liberal arts colleges here only focus on their courses. Their main component of their reason they're on our campuses is to teach our classes and to teach our students. And so that doesn't always necessarily mean that they have these guaranteed experiences outside of the classroom, whether they're doing research or conducting scholarly academic research as well, but it allows them to know that their main focus is the education of their students in their course. And so that's one of the main components that our faculty are here for. It doesn't mean that they're less academically prepared. For example, our faculty at Coe, 95% have their terminal degree or their highest, the PhDs in their areas or the highest degree of their education. It just allows, it says to our faculty and our students that they're here for you. Our faculty are here to teach you and not necessarily spend all of their time on research or different activities on our campuses. It also allows our faculty to have dedicated course time, and not just in the classes, but also dedicated time to help serve students. So oftentimes you'll have office hours for faculty. They hold study sessions. They hold different type of things to help students with that education process. I know many faculty on our campus will commonly have sessions before exams to help study sessions. They often have obviously open office hours throughout the week that students can come in with different questions that they have. I know all of our faculty have come in on weekends and things like that to work with students to help make sure that they're understanding the material and that they are making progress in their education. That also means we don't have any teaching assistants typically at liberal arts colleges. They're all faculty members. We don't have any graduate student assistants here that are teaching our undergraduate students. It's all our full-time faculty that are doing those type of things. And as I mentioned, most of the faculty have their terminal degrees, so their advanced education in their areas as well. The next thing I'll talk about is kind of personal development or student development. And these are some things that, as you're going through the education process at a liberal arts college, you don't really understand that you're getting, right? You don't see these benefits until you graduate and take a look back and evaluate these type of skills. And the skills I have listed here are communication skills. So these are common skills that you need in anything that you do to be effective, right? To be successful. You have to be able to speak well. You have to be able to communicate well and understand your points and those type of things in any type of work environment. And so communication skills is extremely important at our campuses. And that's developed weaved into all of our educational courses, and even in our clubs and organizations, to be honest. So all of our components in our classes will often have presentation. Students will have to give presentations during their class. Our students will write a heck of a lot, and they read a lot as well. And so it allows them to kind of hone these communication skills, and where to the point where they have to give a presentation. It's not the first presentation they've given. They've done this multiple times before in their classes, or in their clubs and activities they're involved in. So communication development is something that's very important, and kind of integrated into all of our different types of courses. Text analysis, right? Being able to decipher text and understand what it means and take that and go to that next step. Again, we read, students on our college campuses read a lot. Reading and writing is extremely core component of any liberal arts education. And so being able to read well sounds elementary, right? Be able to read. But being able to do it quickly, being able to summarize, and be able to provide effective notes from that reading, that's not always as elementary as it can be. And so our students get a lot of those practices as well. Critical thinking. This is a big one, right? And so this is one that any type of employer, any type of graduate school is looking for. Someone who can think. And again, it sounds elementary, right? It sounds like a basic component that anyone can do. But if you think about it, let's say, for example, I'll have a scenario here that I'm exploring. I'm currently enrolled at an institution where I'm a science major, and all I do is study science, right? Chemistry all the way. Only background information I have is in chemistry. And when I get presented a problem, I'm going to think about it very analytically. I'm going to think about it in a very much of a science, maybe a scientific method process, right? A very narrow-focused solution. A student that has exposure to both science and also maybe business or the humanities might look at that problem in a very different way, right? They might be more creative with the solution. They might have exposure. Well, this solution in the chemistry world is very similar, but the solution over here in the business world, or maybe even the historical components of that solution, are very different. And knowing those kind of offshots of, a business or history might change how you look at that problem. So being able to think critically and to evaluate things is definitely something that we stress in our students all the time, right? Is this good information that you're reading, or is it bad information? Especially in the world with the internet and social media and all these type of news outlets, sometimes it's hard to decipher what's the truth and what's not. So being able to think critically and go through logistically what this type of is great. Effective writing, as I mentioned, very similar to communication skills. You have to write well. Again, very key component in anything that you do. And so it allows you to be an effective writer and communicate creatively that way. And problem solving, again, another big one that any employer, graduate schools are looking for. As in my scenario earlier, problem solving can come in a lot of different ways and a lot of different methods, but coming with a unique, unique viewpoint of a solution. In the world today, our problems are only getting more complex. They're only getting more difficult to solve. And so definitely if you have these dynamic backgrounds and exposure to different areas, say climate change, right? It's not just a scientific problem because it has humanistic effects, it has economic effects, it has business effects, it has environmental effects. It takes a multifaceted and a multi-pronged approach solution to solve this one problem. And I personally feel that the problems of today are only going to get more like that, where it involves a lot of different areas to find a good solution to those. And the last component I'll talk about is residence life. It's my last one here, so thanks for sticking with me. Residence life, most of our campuses, our liberal arts colleges, have a social component to them, a residential component. And so what that means is students are living on our campus for their time that they're studying here. So in residential dormitories or in residential apartments on our campus, being a part of this academic community is something that we find very important. It not only helps with the social side of things, but it helps with creating global citizens and people who give back to the communities that they're a part of. And it provides living learning communities to where you can take the stuff from the classroom and you can apply it to your daily life things. You apply it to your organizations and clubs that you're a part of. At Coe, we have over 100 organizations for students to be a part of, whether that's academic, social, community service-based, athletics, religious, political, special interest groups, whatever it might be. It allows students to have this social component, which I think is only heightens and enhances the student's academic component as they're going through things. And again, being a member of our community is something that we find very important. And so giving back to those around us, having a strong community. On our campuses, students have a very strong voice to make changes on the campus and in the surrounding area, to where oftentimes they can go meet with the college president. They can set up a meeting and go meet with him. They can meet with our vice presidents about an issue that they're discussing or talking about on campus, or want to change for that matter. And so these type of exposures to being a very strong voice in the community is something that we try to develop and become community leaders with our students throughout their education here. So again, those are 6 kind of what I will just call very basic components to a liberal arts education, and some of the benefits that kind of go along with that as well. All right, so is this type of educational model relevant in today's world, right? Is it helpful? Is it beneficial? And I'll kind of go through some couple case studies here, right? And does this model actually work for undergraduate education? Is it teaching our students? Is it preparing them to be successful in their career life or their additional graduate schooling or things like that? Is it successful? So I'll kind of give a couple different case scenarios here, and I'll kind of first start with kind of preparation for graduation, right? Do liberal arts colleges prepare students to be graduates of liberal arts colleges? Do our students graduate, and how long does it take them to do so? So a couple of graphs up here. You'll see the dark blue is what I've called private colleges, or in this sense, I'll use liberal arts colleges. And in the light blue, I'll note that as public universities and general other education here in the U.S. Four-year graduation rates. I'm trying to see the number there. 59 versus 48. So liberal arts colleges tend to graduate students within 4 years a higher percentage than public universities. A lot of that has to do with the academic structure, academic flexibility, and students changing their minds or changing their focus. We're more apt to be flexible and accommodating for that on our campuses versus a lot of the universities where they might have to change colleges throughout that when they change their mind and majors. Six-year graduation rate, 13% difference of graduating this within a 6-year window than at a public university. So graduating faster, guaranteeing them, to be done quicker with their undergraduate degree. And on the first point there, median time to a degree. Private liberal arts colleges, 45 months. So that's essentially 4 years, right? 4 years to complete your bachelor's degree. On the median of a public university is 55 months. That's a whole extra year. So you're going to get a 4 years bachelor degree, but on median it takes you 5 years at a public university versus 4 years at a private institution like liberal arts college. And that's a year's worth of time, but that's also a year's worth of tuition dollars as well. So those are the type of things that I encourage students to think about of, are you going to be able to get done in 4 years? And it's harder and harder to do so on a regular basis, it seems like sometimes at a public university in those regards. Second option is just using kind of STEM degrees as an example, right? And so students that have earned STEM degrees in 4 years, if you look at a private liberal arts college, 80% are graduating in 4 years in their STEM major. At a public university, 34%. These are facts from an organization called Council of Independent Schools. And so that's a huge disparity there, 80 to 34%. That's a lot, big difference of preparing students within those 4 years degrees, especially in the STEM fields. Graduate school preparation. So that before slide kind of, are we preparing them for graduation? Are they completing? This one, it kind of talks about what are they doing afterwards? Are they being prepared to go on to more schooling, for example? And what are we doing? Are they being successful in their graduation acceptances to graduate school programs and those type of things? So again, we're using STEM degrees, science, technology, engineering, math as kind of a case model here. Again, private liberal arts colleges are in the dark blue, public institutions and universities are in the light blue. So you can see in the top graph there, the top bar graph, there are fewer STEM graduates in liberal arts colleges, 3% fewer. And so we're graduating less STEM students than on percentage than liberal arts or public universities are. If you look at the bottom one, how many STEM students are going to graduate school? 20 to 12, right? So students that we might graduate fewer liberal arts, fewer STEM students in liberal arts institutions, but a lot more of them are going to graduate schools in STEM field than the university graduates are. So we're pairing, you can look at this a couple of different ways. You can look at it, maybe our students are being better prepared for graduate school acceptance, maybe not. You can also look at it, maybe we're preparing our students for further education better at a liberal arts institution, wanting them to go on, encouraging them to go on and continue their educational path into those graduate PhD careers. It really kind of depends, but I mean, that changes, even though we're graduating fewer, we're sending more graduates onto STEM-related PhD fields is important, I think, and if that's the student's end goal, what it might be. What's next to the one there? What employers want, right? So will our students be successful after they graduate in their careers? 80% of employers want workers with a broad knowledge base. And as we've talked already, that is one of the essential keys, essential missions to a liberal arts education is this broad sense of knowledge. Having these different experiences, whether it's research, whether it's internships, whether it's having exposure or experience in multiple different academic components. That's something that we just do on a regular basis. And so definitely we're meeting that preparation for employers of what we're preparing our students to do and be successful at. 94% of employers want people who can think critically, who can communicate well and effectively. And sorry, I just can't quite read that last one. Solve complex problems. And so again, as I mentioned before, those are some of the key components of what we do in our educational model here at liberal arts colleges. Exposure to thinking critically and thinking about different problems, solving complex problems, and different unique creative solutions to those problems, and communicating those solutions well. That's what we kind of do here, and it's basic, again, a basic foundation of what a liberal arts education is completing all of those different things. So, liberal arts kind of concept, right? You talked a little bit about it, what the characteristics are, what the benefits are. Is that good for you as a student? Does that meet what you're wanting and what you're looking for? So sometimes that's hard to decipher, right? This is what the kind of institution is, and does that make me feel good? Does that make me fit in with that educational model? And so this is when I've talked to students in the many years that I've been doing this, I've kind of picked out a couple different qualities here to share of what I've seen in the past many years on kind of student qualities that they have and that they've done very successfully at a smaller liberal arts college. And I'll kind of start on the top right there of your screen and kind of go clockwise around. Academic curiosity. If you're a student that just wants to study one thing and you have one passion in your life and that's all you want to study and all you want to do, maybe a liberal arts college is not the best fit for you, because we're going to want you to take different courses, right? We're going to want you to explore different areas. And so one of the things that I think gets students that get the most out of our institution, liberal arts institution, is that academic curiosity. You like learning different things. You like learning, period. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just learning. You enjoy that process. You enjoy knowing different types of information. That's definitely one of the components of a student that is going to be a good fit at a liberal arts institution. Enjoying leadership. Again, as a smaller college, students need to step up and be leaders on our institution and our campuses. And there's a lot of opportunities on our colleges, campuses for leadership development, to having exposure to being in charge of something or taking on something that you're nervous about or not used to. That wanting to kind of develop your leadership skills, a smaller environment like Coe or liberal arts campus will give you a comforting environment to do that in, while still supporting you through that process. Open to new ideas. Again, similar to the academic curiosity, it allows us students to kind of take on different ways of thinking, take on different ways of thoughts, take on different cultural things, looks at the worldviews. It allows our students to kind of be open to those ideas, and it allows our students to be free in exploring those and figuring out what their voice is as well. Close faculty relationships. If you want to know your faculty member and you want them to know you, you want to have these experiences with your professors, liberal arts college is ideal for that. That's what we do here on our campuses, and that's what our faculties want and expect from their students, is to have these type of relationships with them, academic and learning relationships that allows them to grow as a student and as a young person as well. So if that's something that you're really interested in, being able to talk with your professors, get that individual help, small liberal arts college is ideal for that. Being a member of a community. As I mentioned before, most us liberal arts colleges have a residential component to it. Some are even required. And so if you want to be a part of that community where you get to know people and you get to interact very easily with people, a liberal arts college campus, again, is a good fit for you. If you want to sit in the back of the classroom, maybe not come to class all the time, or just take your exams and come back for the next class, liberal arts model is probably not the best for you, because you're going to be expected to participate in classes. You're going to be expected to come every day to class and raise your hand and give your feedback for things, to do presentations and things. So if that, also being just a member of our general residential community too, our academic community, being involved in clubs and organizations, being active in Model UN, or being active in community service type things. That's, again, another component of a liberal arts college campus, and if you're looking for that, it'd be a good fit for you. Active in multiple different activities, whether it's athletics, whether it's academic, whether it's, again, social, religious, political, whatever it might be. If you like to be involved and had a lot of exposure in your high school of getting involved in a lot of different things, you've enjoyed that, it's going to be easy transition for you at our campuses, because that's what our students do as well. So that's something easy you can continue on with. Smaller environments, I've kind of hit on this a little bit already as well, but college universities in the U.S. can range anywhere from 5,000 to 40,000. So there's a huge range of universities here, and so there's small universities and large universities. What's kind of guaranteed typically at a smaller liberal arts college is, again, a smaller environment. And so if you're looking for that where there's not a ton of students and thousands of students and 200 students in your classes, we won't have that here. And so if you're looking for that smaller community, you'll definitely find it here. And easier access to opportunities. Universities have great opportunities, and I keep comparing universities and liberal arts colleges. I don't necessarily mean to do that, but just kind of exposing our liberal arts model and what we provide to students as well is there's a lot of opportunities here. There's less competition for it because there's less students. So our students at Coe have gone to international conferences. They've gotten published in scholarly research and in magazines. They go all over the world. They have these really unique experiences, and they aren't competing for 100 students for those opportunities. If you have an interest here and you have a desire to do something, it's very, very easy to do those type of things. So again, those are just some characteristics I pulled out of that I've seen in students be successful at a liberal arts college and really get the most out of our academic curriculum and our education model. Those are the students that do really best. If they harness those type of things, you're going to, I think, really enjoy your experience at a liberal arts college. All right, so at that end, that kind of concludes the presentation. So if there are any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to kind of talk a little bit, anything additional about anything that you might have.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes, gotcha.
Okay, I'm not seeing myself, but at least you can hear me. So thank you, Chris, for taking the time. I'm going to just, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Since we're past 5 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly show a couple more things and wrap up. One program I want to make people aware of is the Youth Ambassadors Program for Canadian citizens, age 15 to 18-year-old students returning to their school in the fall of 2017. So typically grade 10 or 11 students. This program, the application is due by March 30th, and if you click on that link there, you are taken to the webpage, which has all the application information. You can see my email address at the bottom, ottawa@educationusa.info. You can always email me if you have any trouble finding the information or if you have any questions. This is an amazing opportunity to do a 3-week exchange to the United States to learn leadership skills, and if you are awarded a position, this is fully funded by the U.S. Embassy in SUNY Plattsburgh. So it's a very cool opportunity. And lastly, as mentioned at the beginning, Education USA is here to help you. We're here to support you if you're interested in liberal arts colleges or any kind of university or college. I can help you understand the admissions process. So here's a bunch of different ways to get a hold of me, including Instagram, Twitter, and of course, you've got the email and our website, educationusacanada.ca. Our next webinar is on the difference between a Master's of Science and a Master's of Engineering. So I know we're switching gears a little bit into the master's realm, but I know a lot of students like to think about this early so that they can plan. And also coming up really soon this week, we've got the Study Go Abroad Fair in Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, which I will be attending all 3. So please get out there, get to the event. You can meet me in person, and you can meet other admissions officers from the US and around the world. So it looks like we don't have any questions, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Chris, for being with us and providing us with this very helpful information.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Have a nice evening.
You too.